Here we are once again. Another box office weekend is over, and we were infested with some terrible movies. This was not a good weekend at the box office, and the only thing that seemed to perform even halfway, to the tune of a little over $22 million, is a Leonardo DiCaprio film that really reeks of lots of modern garbage. It is a postmodern fantasy about leftist violence. And that's not what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to talk about how bad the weekend was overall, but I would avoid one battle after another to maybe keep yourself sane. Anyway, here we go. All right, now before we get started, very quickly, double check you're still subscribed to the channel, double click you've already hit the like button, and go ahead and throw a comment down below as we talk, because I think you're going to be inspired to say some things about, well, what happened this weekend. And unfortunately, there were a lot of things that happened this weekend, but for the focus of this video, let's talk about the box office. So coming from our friends over at Deadline, Anthony and Nancy, we end up with a summation of where we are with the weekend. One battle after another targets $50 million. That was before the movie released on September 24th. Going into a preview that I wasn't really hyped about, and it doesn't seem like anybody else was either, because if you take a look at Variety's article, the box office was only $3.1 million in previews. Now, DiCaprio is the only reason anybody's showing up, according to the statistics, and, well, the majority of the audience was male and in the right demographic. So this film was going to get, like, the people interested that were going to be interested, but when they found out about the movie, I don't know how they felt. I mean, a lot of people recommended it, a lot of people said they liked it, but I don't know where they were asking people, because everybody I've talked to has said, despite the action and the occasional interesting matter, they were overwhelmed with the pure violent messaging that was being pitched by one side versus another. This is the worst timing for a film like this, and I think somebody should have thought better of releasing it. But that doesn't matter. We're going to get to the box office. So, as of right now, one battle after another is over $22 million. In fact, we'll get to what the actual outcome was here in a minute when we get to the numbers. But this is essentially a record debut for Paul Thomas Anderson, PTA, and Leonardo DiCaprio's 11th movie to open over $20 million. Now, mind you, that may not be as much of a feat as it used to be. I think that Robert Downey Jr. did that in a more spaced together time frame, and not something that vastly stretches his entire career. But hey, let's get into this particular article and the $20 million earnings. As of right now, the Warner Brothers film One Battle After Another opened to $22.4 million in North America. Globally, $48.5 million. These are good numbers. They were projecting forward to $50 million. It fell short, and I don't think it's going to do very well. Because if 1/3 of your earnings come in your first weekends, or sometimes half your earnings, this film isn't even going to make back its budget at $140 million that they admit to, and from people that I've heard from, $175 million or more. This thing is very far from breaking even. But it may do okay in the box office, and maybe it'll add a little more to Warner Brothers' legacy. That's right, they're on a record-breaking year, crossing $4 billion at this point, well ahead of, well, their other competition. But when Deadline has to reach out and suggest that the break-even on the movie is low 200 million global gross threshold, you know they're lying. Because if this thing got to $140 million in budget, let's say, that's not even close. If you look at 2 times gross, it's $280 million. And if you look at 3 times gross, well, it's even more. If this thing doesn't top $500 million, even with that low estimate of the budget that was spent, I think it's in big trouble. Suggesting that there's an $8.4 million tax credit that this will collect isn't even going to touch how much money they spent. The outlook for this one movie was enough to, well, hopefully help the box office overall. We're going to get to that in just a second, as I said before. And just like the crazy long Killers of the Flower Moon, you know, the Scorsese film that just never ended, that thing dropped 60% from weekend to weekend. I have a feeling so will this. And if it does that, it's done. Now, you might ask something, according to this article, about the movie's release date. Why late September? Because originally it was going to go earlier in August. Well, it just seems like Warner Brothers didn't want to have any competition in the theater. And boy, they really didn't. Sadly, there were no other films out there that were going to grab the grand headlines or the numbers. In fact, the DreamWorks animation Gabby's Dollhouse didn't quite do very well overall, with a $13.7 million earnings to a $37 million production cost. According to the folks at Deadline, the greater chance of earnings is in the merchandise, which makes sense, but have you seen a lot of film-related merchandise sell since Barbie? I don't think I have. Now, for all the rest of the numbers, when you take a look at the top 10, you probably feel disappointed because the top 2 movies just didn't bring it, despite being new. And Demon Slayer, I think globally, has crossed $600 million already, which is extraordinary for an anime and Sony Pictures. But here in the States, even more impressively, we're at $118.1 million. Wow. There's not a lot of films out there that are going to reach that number in the last part of the year. Starting at 15, tied for 10th, Weapons is still hanging in there. I'm not sure why, with a meager $455,000. Freakier Friday is in the absolute doldrums of its run at 410, trying to eke its way to a domestic performance of $100 million. Disney, give it up. And The Bad Guys still in theaters, still bringing in a little bit of cash with $352,000. Everything else is $250,000 or less, and, well, we know what's on that list between the Walt Disney non-performing Marvel film, The Fantastic Four: First Steps, Toy Story's re-release with $190,000 caught stealing, Sony Pictures $150,000, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show in re-release at $135,000. Hamilton, why it's still around, I don't know, in 175 theaters for $94,000. And as we go all the way to the bottom, past all the re-releases and failures, or flops outright like The Roses, you get to Lilo and Stitch with a grand total of $5,000 in 20 theaters. No matter what, and no matter how you look at it, you got 30 films that earned a very small, a paltry sum of $75.5 million. This was a terrible weekend. There's no way to spin it. And yet, the folks at Deadline and Variety and, well, The Hollywood Reporter, all the PNC folks are out there trying to scramble to support the one winner they think they have in Leonardo DiCaprio's performance on One Battle After Another. I'm not kidding. It's just how activist this movie is and why this timing is absolutely terrible. Because it's throwing a lightning rod into a swimming pool at a time that in this country, we absolutely don't need it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the box office. What are yours? So let me know in the comments section below. What do you think? Did you see One Battle After Another? Did you think that Leonardo DiCaprio is capable of opening a film again? Do you think that his record 11th $20 million opening, well, record for him anyway, is something that should be celebrated? Is there a reason to hand PTA $140 million or potentially $175, which is what I'm being told? Do you think that the box office is just dead and it's never coming back? Or do you think after we struggle through Christmas and we get to, well, a couple of Disney releases at the end of the year, we might be all right? Do you think 2026 will be any better? Or are we going to be relegated to just a handful of films every year that we could actually throw money at? If that's the case, I think the theaters are going to need to go into the live events marketing business and show, well, WWE and UFC events on all their screens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! But probably not at a terrible DiCaprio movie.